Okay, for this video, we're looking at 9.6, factoring with a leading coefficient other than 1. So we're going to start with just a little warm-up. We're going to go back to our regular factoring, what multiplies to our C and what adds to our B. So just a little warm-up. What two numbers multiply to 30 but add to 17? Well, we know that's just 15 and 2. This is what you've seen in the past. You've hopefully gotten pretty decent at it at this point. Let's try a little trickier one, x squared minus x minus 30. What multiplies to negative 30 but adds to negative 1. You probably were thinking 6 and 5, which one is the negative one? Well, since they add to negative 1, it's got to be negative 6. So x minus 6 times x plus 5 would definitely FOIL out to x squared minus x minus 30. Speaking of FOILing, let's get some practice here. First, outside, inside, last. So you have 3x times 2x, that's 6x squared. Outside, 4 times 3x is 12x. Inside, 5 times 2x is 10x. And 5 times 4 is 20. Combine like terms in the middle, 6x squared plus 22x plus 20. And then we'll do this one. I'm going to combine the middle terms right away because I feel like we're probably at that point right now. So 2x times 5x is 10x squared. If we go outside, 2x times 2 is 4x. Negative 1 times 5x is negative 5x. So 4x minus 5x is negative x. And then negative 1 plus 2 is negative 2. So what we're going to look at today is how we can factor something like this or like this that has a leading coefficient that isn't 1 and write it in factored form like we did for examples 1 and 2. So just to prep you on this, there are about 6 different methods that I know for factoring something with a leading coefficient, something like 3x squared plus 10x plus 8. I'm only going to go over one in the video. If you want to ask a question on maybe another method, because this makes 0 sense, or you want to look up other YouTube videos or anything like that, be my guest, go right ahead. The important thing is not that you factor it the way I do. The important thing is that you can factor it in a method that makes sense to you. But I will preface that it is tricky. Like, any of the methods are hard. I pick this method because I think it is the easiest. I call it slip, slide, divide. So if our expression is 3x squared plus 10x plus 8, first thing we're going to do is we're going to make it look like the leading coefficient is 1. So we're going to multiply the a and the c and make that our new c. So what I mean is 3 times 8 is 24. So I'm going to drop the 3 out front. X squared plus 10x plus 3 times 8 is 24. If you need that visual. That's step 1. Now we factor that normally, because we can do that. What two numbers multiply to 24 but add to 10? Pretty obvious, 6 and 4. So you have x plus 6 times x plus 4. Now what's tempting is to be done here, but if you were to FOIL this out, your leading coefficient would definitely not be 3. So now what we need to do is we need to slide the original leading coefficient back in, and how we do this is we bring this 3 in and we divide both the numbers that we see by the 3. That's involving the 3 in a way that we hadn't had it involved before. Once we do that, we divide. And if we can't divide it evenly, we move the 3, or what we're dividing by, to the x part. I'll show you what I mean. So 3 plus 6 divided by 3, well, 6 divided by 3 is just 2. So x plus 2. Now you have x plus 4 thirds. 3 does not evenly go into 4, so all we do is we slide the 3 back up to the x, and then we have plus 4. And this is actually our completed factored form. Crazy, right? If we were to multiply all this out, we would get 3x squared plus 10x plus 8. The reason this works to slide this 3 up, if you're looking for a reason why, is that if you were to solve this, if this was set equal to 0, you would subtract 4 thirds to both sides and you would get x is equal to negative 4 thirds. Well, if you were to solve 3x plus 4 equals 0, you'd subtract 4, then you divide by 3, you'd still get x is equal to negative 4 thirds. So it works either way we do it. This is just more of our standard form of factoring. The best way to learn these is just to do more examples, so let's try another one. 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. First thing we do is we multiply a and c, write that as our new c. Now we factor that normally. So you have x minus 4 times x plus 1. Those numbers multiply to negative 4 but add to negative 3. Now we're going to divide 2 in. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so you have x minus 2. Swing the 2 up because you can't divide 1/2, so you have times 2x plus 1. And that is completely factored. So it actually can be pretty quick. If you look up other methods, which I said you are welcome to do, they all take longer than this. Let's try another one. Why don't you pause the video now and try this one on your own. Okay, here we go. Multiply a and c, drop the 2 out in front, 2x squared minus 5x minus 6. Factor that normally. That's x minus 3. Oh, excuse me. That's not going to work. We got to go x minus 6 and x plus 1. Those multiply to negative 6 but add to negative 5. We divide in the 2. So you have x minus 3 times, that doesn't divide evenly, swing the 2 up, 2x plus 1. And that would FOIL out to 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. Okay, so one thing you should be careful of with this method of factoring is that if you can if you can factor out a coefficient or a monomial first, you have to do that before you slip slide. So for example, 10x squared plus 14x plus 4. The first thing you should be looking at is, can I take out a common monomial? Is there a number or a term that would go into 10x squared and 14x and 4? The big key here that we see is all these numbers are even. So you can take out a 2. So 2 times 5x squared plus 7x plus 2. Now we're in a situation where this on the inside, there's no monomials that go into it. If we are factoring this completely though, we can't forget about the 2. But we can while we're just factoring this part. But when we're done, we have to remember to bring the 2 back in. So we're going to remember the 2. But we're going to ignore it for a second, and we're just going to camp on 5x squared plus 7x plus 2. We're going to factor it the same way we have been doing everything. Slip, slip, slide. So x squared plus 7x plus 5 times 2 is 10. Factor this normally. X plus 5 times x plus 2. Those multiply to 10 but add to 7. Now we divide in the 5. So we have x plus 1 times, that doesn't divide evenly, swing the 5 up, 5x plus 2. So we're done, but we can't forget about that 2. But now this thing is factored completely. If you were to multiply all this stuff out, you would get back to 10x squared plus 14x plus 4. Last problem for the video, we're just going to do one with solving. Works the exact same way as all of the other ones we've done, only now at the end we're going to set it equal to 0 and solve. So 4x squared plus 5x plus 1, we're going to multiply a and c, drop the 4 out front, x squared plus 5x plus 4 equals 0. Kind of, we'll get to that later. Now we're going to factor this regularly, so what multiplies to 4 but adds to 5? 4 and 1 sure do. So you have x plus 1 times x plus 4. We're going to bring the 4 back in. So 4x plus 1 times x plus 1 equals 0. Now you set each of these pieces equal to 0 and solve. So 4x plus 1 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. This one's easy. It's just x is equal to negative 1. Here you got 4x is equal to negative 1. Divide by 4. X is equal to negative 1/4. If you were to plug in negative 1 or plug in negative 1/4 to this expression, you would get 0 back. All right, that'll wrap it up for 9.6.